I keep researching instead of starting. Sometimes what we do is we make these little side projects for ourselves and we indulge in those, and they are like so close to the real thing, so close, so adjacent, so related to the thing that we really want to be doing that we're like, yeah, this is the thing, this is worth it. But we're just distracting ourselves or keeping ourselves from the thing that would actually satisfy us. So I have caught myself once again. I have been researching these couple of things endlessly. I am collecting all of the resources, collecting all of the data, and I'm writing. And maybe they'll become something someday, but they are not right now, and they are not my predominant focus. And though I love writing, and I hope that writing becomes a part of my important world, or an important part of my world, like as a maker and as an artist, I don't know that writing research essays is exactly like a piece of what I'm doing here. It's like a part of my ecosystem for sure, but like I don't know how central it is. And so I have started to become aware of how I'm using it as an avoidant behavior. So let me set this up for you. I am researching. So I have absolutely fallen in love with, I've always been in love with Vasily Kandinsky, and got to see his show at the Guggenheim when I was in undergrad, part one. I transferred schools, so I talk about undergrad part one, undergrad part two. Undergrad part one, I believe I got to go to New York City for Christmas with my family, and I got to see Kandinsky's work in the Guggenheim, which is just, oh my gosh. So I've been writing this essay series. It starts with the Guggenheim and the Guggenheim as spiritual place, and then it looks at Vasily Kandinsky, who I'm obsessed with, who was trying to paint music through his art and trying to portray like the experience that we have in listening to music, like through color. And he had this whole system of color, and it's like incredible. And obviously I've gotten really deep in this. And then also Hilma af Klint. So Hilma af Klint is a transcendental abstract painter, abstract to some extent, far before her time. And actually her first abstract was before Kandinsky. And so there are some predominant voices in the space that are trying to change the story about how Kandinsky is the father of abstraction, because we actually have a mother of abstraction. That Hilma af Klint was doing this before he was, but she could not break into the art world because of her identity characteristics and the oppression of the time. And so folks are trying to rewrite that story a little bit, as far as we can kind of look at Hilma af Klint's work predating Kandinsky. So I have been writing this 3-part essay. It starts with Guggenheim as spiritual place and the original intents of Raby in creating and designing that space. And then it goes to Hilma af Klint and her work, and then to Kandinsky. And I've been playing with those two moving spaces, or whatever, Kandinsky first, then Hilma af Klint. I don't know. We're doing these like little bios. And I've been researching a lot, and I've been writing on this a little bit, and I'm making space, and I've shared it with a friend to get feedback, and I'm kind of doing this thing. And it is influential, and it is great, and I think it will become something. And also, I might be researching instead of doing the thing. I think I may have caught myself again. So part of what drew me to Vasily Kandinsky, part of what drew me to Hilma af Klint. Hilma af Klint had this incredibly rich spiritual life and experience, and her paintings would be called automatic writings or automatic paintings, and she felt like she was receiving these messages and these ideas from beyond herself, from spirits that had passed. And she had a few spirits that she really communicated with that kind of gave her these stories and these ideas. And if you look at her art, she's painting the cell before we know about the cell. She's painting plant material, like how plant human life, how like potentially, arguably, like she's painting about this collective consciousness and the fabric that weaves all of us together. And if you've seen our I Heart Huckabees, it's like the blanket, like how we're all connected, we're all in the blanket. And I remember Kandinsky, something that was very impactful for me with Kandinsky is also that he spoke about, so I found out that he was a theosophist, Hilma af Klint was a theosophist as well, and found out that they had this spiritual element to their work, that they felt responsible or on the hook on some way or some level for sharing this spiritual reality that's beyond what we can just see. And so that's why I've kind of attached myself to these artists. And so once I look at that, I can really look at the fact that I'm asking the question that I'm asking. This is just the vulnerable share. This is not the meat of this video, but the question that I'm asking is art spiritual? Can art be spiritual? What can spiritual experience look like in the creative practice and process? And how can I then like share that with others, right? So that's what I'm asking about these people. And it's funny because when I frame it in that way, that's something that, yes, I can have mentors, I can have guides, I can have folks that I look to create an idea of what I can do in my own creative practice and my spiritual journey. But really, that answer, one, I'm probably never going to get it. I'm just going to have to form my own concepts and beliefs around it. And two, I'm probably not going to get it anywhere from outside of my own creative practice. And so I'm turned something that's very tactile and hands-on and experiential into something extremely intellectual and academic in order to protect myself from the vulnerability and the openness to experience, the experience, the answers that I might get, the actual experience of believing that something can happen in the process of making and then having to experience that, the thing that I really want, I'm like protecting myself from. I don't know. There's all these other levels. So the actual content of what I'm researching is the smallest part of this giant question that I'm holding that is actually a really big backbone to the manifesto of why I work and why I'm in the studio. And so, yes, I can like write, and like for some people, there's been a lot of cohesion because of writing about their practice. And maybe that's me and maybe that's not. But I think at this moment, I'm realizing how easy it is for so many of us to safely, academically, and intellectually research rather than actually do the thing. And this is something that I talked about a lot in my graduate program that was spiritual direction, was about how we intellectualize things in order to distance from them. And something that we were always trying to do with the folks that we sat with as spiritual directors was getting out of the mind, out of that intellectual space where like you've probably done it with a therapist or a friend or a coach, where you're able to give like all of the reasons of like, this is this because of this and this and this is, and this is how it's impacting me, I think, and this is where it will take me, and this is why I'm learning it, and blah, 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 blah. That's intellectualizing. But to actually take it into the body and into the experience, into the creative process, and let it like come through and experience the feelings of the thing, that's what we're always avoiding in intellectualizing or staying in the mental space. We're trying to keep ourselves safe from actually feeling the things and actually going through the thing, the movement. 3 things I'm noticing in my wanting to research versus actually do like my work is that research feels like progress. It feels good. I can check it off on a list. I can actually put it on my to-do list for the day and say, write blah, blah, blah. I can be like, I'm going to write 30 minutes today, or I'm going to work on that. Or like when I go to sleep, sometimes at night, I'm trying to make it more of a practice, but I'll write down like, tomorrow I will just, And like, it's still easier to put down writing things like, oh, tomorrow I will just revisit that essay. Tomorrow I will just edit that essay or whatever. Or tomorrow I'll just find a little bit more research on that thing. Like, that's still way easier than blocking off this like chunk of time to get out my materials, to get out my chemicals, to mix things and get in the dark and protect it as far as no interruptions, and actually be in the thing, the wondering, to actually and it's easier, right? Like, there's progress. I can come to conclusions. I can see how the maths, like all of that. But so it's satisfying in that way. It feels like progress. I'm able to check it off. But the second thing being, the question that I'm researching is not going to be able to be answered through research. It's too big, it's too great. And even if I find the answer through my research, it's not going to be satisfying or changing or transformative in me in the same way that doing it through my creative practice would be, because I'm an artist. I'm wired for this. 3, I am researching this topic for a reason. It's not bad. I'm not totally distracting myself. It's not purely avoidant. It's that I'm gauging this giant question in me from a safe distance, from a place that feels a little bit better than blocking off the time and getting in the dark and seeing what happens. I think what's funny too about this particular example of what I'm researching is that I'm not sure, but I've watched a documentary on Hilma af Klint's journals and writings, and she writes a lot about her spiritual experience, and she creates this whole system, and she's decoding all of these messages from these guides. And I don't think she's writing much about whether or not it's a spiritual practice and whether or not making her art is worthwhile or is a spiritual practice, or she's not writing a lot about transcendence as a goal or what it looks like to get there or any of that. She believes in the space, she believes in the work, she believes in the messages, and she's just going for it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've taken from her. And then Kandinsky also, yes, he creates theory. He wrote a book. He was a teacher at the Bauhaus. He's teaching his theory on color. He's created this color system that he thinks what blue means, what yellow means, and how they interact, and what is perfect harmony, and all of that. He's teaching all of this, but he's found something for himself. He's decided it and he's found it. He's not researching and writing whether or not art is transcendent or art has power or art is worth doing or making. He believes that it's true. And so maybe in part of my research, that's what I'm looking for, is just examples of other folks that have just found that it is true, that it is true, that it is true, that art is worthwhile and it is worth making, and this is what we do. Maybe. And that serves its own purpose. They didn't over-intellectualize the process. Sure, they wrote about it and they taught about it and all of that, but not at the cost of doing it. They were making the work. They were showing the work. Hilma af Klint was fighting to get this temple built for her works because she thought that they would change the world. They surrendered to it. And I think I can stop intellectualizing it so much, and I can just surrender to it. Get in the dark room. I'm talking about a dark room, y'all. Get in the dark and see what happens. The true answer of what I'm looking for, not the guides, not the phrases, not the examples, not any of that. The question that I'm asking, is the creative practice inherently spiritual? Does this have meaning? Does this have purpose? Does this change me? That answer can't come in a body knowing and an emotional realization and in a deep-seated, reckoned with way through my research, through my essays. It's going to come through getting in the dark room. So if you have been using your research as progress, as something that's satisfyingly separating you in an intellectual division, an intellectual way from the real work of finding your wonder, not even answers, the wonder, the question space, maybe try giving the research a break. Stop collecting resources. Stop collecting how other people did things. Stop collecting the examples and the samples and the da-da-da-da, and see what happens when you get in process. I am going to stop researching, at least for now. I'm going to stop researching and start working.